remarkable engineering feat saw the huge 114,000-ton ship lifted and rolled into an upright position.
Shipwrecks are not only mesmerizing to look at, but they also hide dark secrets of their untimely demise. They aren't just stories of disaster. They're windows into forgotten history. From famous treasure hunts to missions that save history, shipwreck salvaging is where real-life adventure meets detective work. With that said, here are some of the most incredible salvage operations carried out in history. George M. Humphrey. The recovery of George M. Humphrey in 1944 is a shining example of human cleverness and determination. Captain John Rowan, an experienced Norwegian immigrant, led this remarkable operation, marking an exciting chapter in maritime salvage history. The 600-foot freighter George M. Humphrey tragically sank on June 15, 1943, after colliding with the DM Clemson in thick fog in the Straits of Mackinac. This terrible accident sent the freighter sinking to the bottom, where it settled in 77 feet of water, sticking out like a sore thumb and getting in the way of every ship that came its way. Owned by the Kinsman Transit Company and operated by GM and H.G. Steinbrenner, the Humphrey became a ghost in the water, its presence a serious threat to passing ships. The sinking of the George M. Humphrey was important, not just because of its size, but also because it was the first time a 600-foot vessel had sunk in the history of the Great Lakes. Experts and salvage teams from all over looked at the situation, and many thought that recovering such a big wreck was impossible. However, Captain Rowan refused to give up. He saw potential where others saw a lost cause, and he was determined to prove them wrong. Captain John Rowan took a bold and different approach that changed the game in maritime salvage. Instead of using heavy machines or complicated lifting systems, he came up with a smart plan. Rowan decided to fill the ballast tanks of the George M. Humphrey with air. This clever move made the ship light enough to be lifted and towed to shallower waters by a smaller boat. The recovery operation began in October 1944, during a time when the weather in the Great Lakes was as unpredictable as a wild roller coaster ride. Stormy skies and changing water levels made the job even tougher. However, Captain Rowan and his crew were excited and ready to face whatever challenges came their way. The divers became the unsung heroes of this mission, bravely diving into the cold waters to remove hatch covers and equipment from the Humphrey. At the same time, Rowan's hard-working barges, named Land and Industry, focused on lifting the huge 13,993 tons of iron ore that the Humphrey had been carrying when it sank. This step was crucial because getting rid of some of that heavy weight was key to making the ship easier to lift. With every hatch cover they removed, they were one step closer to success. As May 1945 arrived and the weather warmed up, Captain Rowan and his team stepped up their efforts. They knew it was time to go all out. Divers jumped into the cold water with sharp focus, attaching sheaves to Humphrey's gunnel bars while using a steam hammer to speed things up. However, they didn't stop there. The crew built a complex system of pulleys and cables to evenly share the lifting force needed for the salvage. It was like conducting a big concert underwater. Every move had to be perfectly timed. Teamwork and precision were key, and the crew worked together like a well-oiled machine, with each person playing an important part in this big recovery mission. One of the most important tasks was making sure Humphrey's water ballast tanks were airtight. This was not easy. It took both care and patience. Divers dove into the chilly water with quick-sealing cement, carefully covering any cracks or seams in the tanks. Their goal? To make sure these tanks could hold air, which was essential for helping the ship float back up. Before they knew it, the George M. Humphrey was finally raised and ready to be towed across Lake Michigan to Sturgeon Bay. As the ship broke through the water, cheers and excitement filled the air. Thousands of people lined the shores, their eyes wide with wonder as they watched this historic moment. However, the salvage operation came with a big price tag. Captain Rowan spent about $250,000 on the effort. Yet, he didn't let that stop him. Rowan knew there were risks, both financial and physical, but his determination was strong. He saw the potential rewards and understood how important it was to bring Humphrey back to the surface. Even with all the challenges they faced, the successful recovery of the Humphrey was a huge win for Captain Rowan and his dedicated crew. This achievement wasn't just about saving a ship. It showed their cleverness, teamwork, and hard work. Now, while the recovery of George M. Humphrey showcases human ingenuity, this next disaster leaves us questioning what really went wrong at sea. Costa Concordia. The Costa Concordia disaster, which happened on January 13, 2012, is one of the most tragic stories in maritime history. This 8-year-old cruise ship, shining in the sunlight and packed with excited passengers, was ready to sail through the beautiful waters of Tuscany. Operated by Costa Cruises, part of Carnival Corporation, this ship was meant to be a floating paradise, full of fun and relaxation for everyone on board. However, this dream quickly turned into a nightmare. The Concordia suddenly went off its planned course and hit a hidden rock under the water. The crash was shocking and violent, making the ship tilt dangerously and partially sink onto an underwater ledge. Chaos erupted as water flooded in, and the safety that passengers felt just moments before turned into panic and confusion.
People fell down, people cut, people destroyed, people dead.
As the ship tilted, passengers rushed for safety, while crew members tried to keep calm and help everyone. Sadly, this disaster led to the loss of 33 lives, 27 passengers, 5 crew members, and 1 brave member of the salvage team who risked everything to save others. After the disaster, investigators focused on the crew's decisions, especially Captain Francesco Schettino's actions. His leadership during the crisis became a major topic of discussion. Found guilty of manslaughter, he was criticized for causing the accident.
I cannot feel responsible. Of course, I feel sad for that.
And abandoning hundreds of scared passengers during the chaos. As rescue helicopters and boats rushed to help, the captain's actions made him a symbol of failure in crisis management.
And there is a difference between crime and accident. In this case, it's been treated like a crime. I don't understand why.
The court sentenced Schettino to 16 years in prison for his part in the tragedy. However, the fallout didn't stop there. Costa Cruises also faced criticism for how they handled the situation. While the company received a lot of backlash from the public and media, they were not charged with any crimes. The story of the Costa Concordia didn't just end with its tragic sinking. It led to one of the biggest salvage operations ever. After being declared a total loss, the ship became a huge challenge for salvage teams when they started work on September 16, 2013. This massive effort would last until October 27, 2014, and it became known as one of the largest maritime recoveries in history. To lift the ship from the water, the salvage team used a method called the parbuckle. This task was very tricky and needed great skill to avoid causing more damage to the already battered ship. In July 2014, the big moment finally arrived when the Costa Concordia was successfully refloated.
The remarkable engineering feat saw the huge 114,000-ton ship lifted and rolled into an upright position.
This amazing feat happened because workers attached large sponsons, big, buoyant structures welded to the sides of the ship. These sponsons acted like huge floats, helping the Concordia rise and float again. Once the ship was buoyant, it was towed to the busy port of Genoa, where it faced its final fate at the hands of scrappers. By July 2017, the once proud cruise ship had been turned into scrap metal, marking the end of its story. However, the wreck wasn't just a salvage site. It also attracted looters and souvenir hunters. Thieves saw the wreck as a chance to grab valuable items, like the ship's bell and beautiful pieces of art. In response, authorities increased security, putting strict measures in place to protect the site and the delicate marine life around it. This operation was about more than just getting the ship back. It was also about protecting nature. With bad weather raising worries about possible oil spills, teams quickly set up floating barriers to catch any leaks. The wreck was located in the Pelagos Sanctuary for Mediterranean marine mammals, an important area full of life and a popular spot for divers. Keeping marine life safe was a top priority. Remarkably, part of the operation included moving giant fan muscles, showing that even during a tragedy, there was a strong effort to protect the environment. The salvage operation was a thrilling challenge, filled with careful steps that needed teamwork and precision. Then came the exciting moment of refloating the ship. They used advanced navigation tools and a special cutting cable to break the wreck into manageable pieces. Everyone worked hard, always watching for any environmental risks to keep the water safe. A key part of this operation was getting rid of the remaining fuel from the ship. This tricky job was done using a method called hot tapping, which let the salvage crews reach the ship's tanks safely. It was a tense task, but it was essential to avoid any big spills. Finally, the team was ready to tow the refloated Costa Concordia to an Italian port for recycling. It was a proud moment, showing the incredible effort to turn a tragedy into a story of recovery and responsibility. However, as the Costa Concordia faced its tragic end, whispers of a once mighty battleship finally came to light, highlighting its resilience and hidden treasures. The salvage of the Japanese battleship Mutsu. In the calm waters of Hiroshima Bay, the mighty battleship Mutsu stood tall, its massive hull cutting through the sea like a giant blade. It wasn't just another ship. It was a Nagato-class battleship, a symbol of Japan's strength and pride. It represented not only the military force of the nation, but also the spirit of the people, a symbol of endurance and resilience. However, as with many great stories, the fate of the Mutsu took a sharp, unexpected turn. On June 8, 1943, the peaceful waters of Hiroshima Bay were rocked by a massive explosion. In seconds, the battleship Mutsu was torn apart from the inside by a mysterious blast. The explosion was so powerful that it echoed across the bay, and before anyone could react, the great ship sank quickly into the sea. The cause of the explosion is still debated by experts, but the tragedy was clear. The Mutsu, once a proud and powerful ship, was gone in an instant. After the disaster, attention turned to the wreckage. Salvage crews were sent in to do two important things: recover the remains of the crew lost inside the ship, and see if it was possible to raise the Mutsu from the ocean floor. It was a tough and dangerous job, and it took years of effort. Divers had to risk their lives in the deep waters, not knowing what they would find or if they could ever bring the ship back to the surface. To understand the risks, they studied the Mutsu's sister ship, the Go, gathering all the information they could about the dangers they might face. When the time came, they put on their gear and plunged into the cold, murky waters of Hiroshima Bay. Every dive was dangerous, but one mission stood out. A group of divers, using a small but strong submersible called a Nishimura type, headed toward the wreck. As they moved through the dark water, disaster struck. The submersible got stuck on the sharp, twisted edges of the wreck. The crew was trapped. For more than 2 hours, they were caught in their metal prison, with oxygen running out and fear building. It was a terrifying experience, showing just how risky these salvage missions were. After the Mutsu's tragic sinking, the hopes of raising and restoring the once powerful battleship started to fade. The Japanese Navy, full of enthusiasm at first, soon realized how difficult and unrealistic their plans were. By September 1, 1943, the Mutsu was officially removed from the Navy list, marking the end of its glory. However, even though the ship was gone, it still held valuable resources beneath the ocean's surface. Fast forward to July 1944, during the chaos of World War II, Japan was facing a severe oil shortage. The Navy launched a daring mission called Operation T, or Operation Bamboo, to salvage what they could from the Mutsu. Divers managed to extract 580 tons of fuel from the sunken wreck, an incredible achievement at a time when every drop of oil was desperately needed. This bold operation gave a small glimmer of hope during a time of struggle, proving that even though the Mutsu was lost, it could still help in Japan's fight for survival. In 1947, as the war came to an end, the U.S. Navy took an interest in the wreck of the Mutsu. They carried out inspections to see what remained of the sunken battleship. Then, in the early 1950s, the U.S. Occupation Administration decided to return the remains of the Mutsu to the Japanese government. This decision sparked new excitement, and soon there were fresh efforts to salvage what was left of the ship. During these salvage operations, divers found some valuable relics from the Mutsu's past. One of the most notable discoveries was the ship's chrysanthemum crest, a symbol of the Imperial Japanese Navy that once adorned the proud battleship. They also recovered a 5.5-inch casemate gun, a piece of the ship's firepower. These artifacts weren't just random pieces of metal. They were meaningful reminders of the Mutsu's legacy and the people connected to its story. The discoveries brought the ship's history back to the surface, offering glimpses into its once mighty presence and the tragic fate that sent it to the ocean floor. By 1963, the Fukuoka Salvage Company took charge of the largest salvage operations yet on the wreck of the Mutsu. They secured the rights to the ship in 1970 and launched an ambitious mission to recover as much of the battleship as they could. Over the next several years, their team worked hard, facing many challenges in the deep sea to bring the mighty ship back to life piece by piece. By 1978, they had successfully recovered the No. 4 turret, along with many other important parts, managing to bring back about 75% of the ship's remains. However, even with all this progress, a large part of the Mutsu still lay hidden beneath the waves, waiting to be found. Among the depths is a 35-meter section that includes the bridge structure and the elusive No. 1 turret, forever shrouded in mystery. However, across Japan, museums proudly display pieces of the Mutsu, making sure its tale is never forgotten and its memories are cherished by everyone. One of the most important places keeping this history alive is the Mutsu Memorial Museum in Toao. Here, visitors can explore a fascinating collection of artifacts that celebrate the Mutsu's glorious days. Each item on display offers a glimpse into the ship's rich past, highlighting the skill and dedication that went into building such a powerful vessel. Not far away, the former Naval Academy in Etajima proudly showcases the fully restored No. 4 turret. This impressive piece stands tall, serving as a proud reminder of the ship's firepower and the incredible engineering behind it. In Kobe, adventure awaits at the Yamato Museum, where visitors can marvel at impressive pieces of the Mutsu, including a stunning 16-inch gun and a huge propeller. These artifacts are not just old objects. They represent the ship's powerful design and remind us of the brave people who fought valiantly aboard her. The museum offers a unique look into naval history, combining education with a deep respect for the sacrifices made by those who served. Meanwhile, in the busy city of Tokyo, the Museum of Maritime Science showcases more parts of the Mutsu, giving visitors a chance to explore the wider context of maritime history. Here, you can learn how ships like the Mutsu played a crucial role in shaping Japan's naval legacy. Just a short distance away, the Yasukuni Museum also features artifacts that tell the story of the battleship, connecting visitors to the past and stirring up feelings of nostalgia for an era long gone. However, the story of the Mutsu is not without its secrets. Some artifacts have mysteriously disappeared from public view, like a rudder and a propeller shaft that were once proudly displayed at the Arashiyama Art Museum. This adds an air of mystery to the Mutsu's legacy, reminding us that the journey of this legendary battleship is still unfolding, with new discoveries waiting to be made. Even though Mutsu's story ended at the bottom of the sea, another ship was ready to set sail into its own thrilling adventure in the world of pirates. The WA Galley. The WA Galley, affectionately known as the Wida, was more than just a boat. The Wida started its life as a simple passenger and cargo carrier, then turned into a slave ship, and finally became a famous pirate ship during the notorious Golden Age of piracy. Launched in the late 17th century, the Wida was originally made for the triangle trade. This was a dangerous route that connected Europe, Africa, and the Americas in a web of trade and, sadly, the exchange of enslaved people. While this was a dark chapter in history, it set the stage for the Wida's surprising adventures. The Waida's story took a thrilling turn on its very first voyage. As the ship set sail, its sails billowed proudly in the wind when, suddenly, the infamous pirate Captain Samuel "Black Sam" Bellamy attacked it. In a bold and daring move, he took control of the Waida, turning the ship into a floating fortress of piracy. Once in the hands of Captain Bellamy, the Waida became a fearsome symbol of piracy along the American coast. The Waida became the stuff of legends, a floating treasure chest that gathered incredible wealth as it raided the seas. Sadly, the story of the WA Galley took a dark turn on April 26, 1717, when a terrible storm swept through, causing chaos off the coast of Cape Cod, Massachusetts. The storm was relentless, and the Waida couldn't withstand its power. This disaster led to the heartbreaking loss of many of her crew. Out of the wreckage, only 9 survivors made it out. 2 of them were forced into a life of piracy, 6 were hanged, and 1 Indian crewman faced a grim fate as he was sold into slavery. The Waida and her legendary treasure faded into a haunting tale that went undiscovered for over 2.5 centuries. However, the tale of the Waida didn't end there. Fast forward to 1984, when underwater explorer Barry Clifford set off on a daring quest and found the wreck of the Waida, lying quietly beneath a shallow layer of water and sand off Cape Cod's coast. This discovery was amazing. The WA Galley is the only fully authenticated pirate shipwreck from the golden age of piracy. In 1985, the ship's identity was confirmed when the ship's bell was unearthed, proudly showing the inscription, WA Galley, 1716. This incredible find thrilled historians and treasure hunters alike. Then, in 2013, something incredible was found. A small brass plaque that added even more weight to the Waida's already legendary story. The Waida wreck site has since transformed into a goldmine for underwater archaeology, pulling in explorers, historians, and treasure hunters alike, all eager to uncover the ship's buried secrets. Over the years, more than 200,000 artifacts have been recovered from the wreck, each one offering a glimpse into life during the golden age of piracy. From weapons to coins to personal items, these discoveries have painted a vivid picture of what it was like to sail the seas as a pirate. This has turned the Waida into one of the richest sources of pirate history ever unearthed. Now, among the most touching discoveries aboard the ship were the belongings of the youngest known crew member, a boy named John King. He was only about 10 or 11 years old when he bravely insisted on joining Captain Bellamy's crew. Artifacts like a child-sized shoe and a delicate silk stocking found in the wreck match perfectly with historical accounts of John King's clothing, bringing his young life into sharp focus. These small personal items remind us that pirates weren't just tough rogues. They were also real people with stories, dreams, and sometimes sad fates. Today, the Waida's captivating tale continues to excite audiences of all ages. Artifacts recovered from the wreck are proudly displayed at the Waida Pirate Museum in West Yarmouth, Massachusetts. Here, visitors can step back in time and dive into the rich history of piracy. In Salem, Massachusetts, the Real Pirates exhibit brings even more of the Waida's story to life, offering an interactive experience that draws visitors into the exciting world of piracy. Plus, the Waida Sea Lab and Learning Center, opened by Barry Clifford in Provincetown, Massachusetts, plays a key role in ongoing exploration and learning. The center provides resources for those eager to discover more about maritime history, archaeology, and the lasting legacy of the Waida. As the WA Galley sailed from the shadows of its dark past, another maritime misadventure was waiting to unfold on the horizon. MV Tricolor. This Norwegian-flagged vehicle carrier, launched in 1987 as the Noack's Sun, was a huge 50,000-ton ship that became famous for not just 1, but 3 separate collisions in a short 2-year span. On December 14, 2002, the Tricolor was sailing from Zeebrugge, Belgium, to Southampton, UK, packed with nearly 3,000 shiny new cars, all ready for their excited new owners. Little did anyone know, this journey would be unforgettable, for all the wrong reasons. In the early hours of the morning, just as the sun began to rise, disaster struck. The Tricolor collided with the Cuba, a Bahamian-flagged container ship that had been sailing the seas since 1982. As the crash shook the Tricolor, alarms went off and chaos erupted. With a loud crunch and the screech of metal on metal, the two ships collided in the dark waters of the English Channel. The Cuba managed to stay afloat, but the Tricolor was not so lucky. It sank to the ocean floor, 17 nautical miles north of the French coast, right in the middle of one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. This sinking happened in the French exclusive economic zone, near Dunkirk Harbor, France's northernmost seaport. In a surprising twist of fate, no lives were lost in this maritime disaster, which is nothing short of miraculous given how chaotic it was. However, the Tricolor didn't just sink quietly. It ended up lying on its side in 30 meters of deep water. Now, the wreck created a big hazard for passing ships. It became an underwater obstacle in the busy traffic of the English Channel, where vessels from all over the world were trying to navigate through tight spaces. French authorities jumped into action right away. They realized the sunken Tricolor was a serious threat, not just to ships trying to pass, but also to the marine environment. They quickly ordered the wreck to be removed because, in such a busy shipping lane, the last thing anyone needed was an underwater disaster causing problems. Even with signs and guard ships around the Tricolor wreck, trouble seemed to follow. Just one night after it sank, the Dutch vessel NOA crashed into the wreck, ignoring several radio warnings and guard ships and the lighted buoys nearby. It felt like the ocean was throwing more chaos into the mix. But the real drama happened on January 1st, 2003, when the Turkish fuel carrier Vicky hit the sunken ship. Luckily, it managed to break free thanks to the rising tide, but the incident shook the maritime community. These close calls showed that urgent safety measures were needed. In response, the International Association of Marine Aids to Navigation and Lighthouse Authorities stepped in to create a new emergency wreck buoy. This buoy was specifically designed to serve as a temporary warning system for sailors, marking the locations of recent shipwrecks. Its bright colors and distinct shape alerted mariners to the potential dangers lurking beneath the waves, ensuring they were cautious as they navigated these treacherous waters. The salvage operation for the Tricolor, led by the Dutch company Smith International, started in July 2003 and finished on October 27, 2004. The team used a special cutting cable with carbide on it to slice the wreck into 9 huge sections, each weighing around 3,000 tons. It was like trying to cut a giant cake underwater, except the stakes were much higher. With every cut, the pressure was on, and the excitement in the air was electric as they worked to clear the shipping lane and make the busy waters of the English Channel safe again. Meanwhile, the Dutch company CT Systems worked with the International Association of Marine Aids to Navigation and Lighthouse Authorities to manage the navigation side of things. Using advanced tools and side-scan sonar, they carefully searched for debris and organized the recovery efforts. With the wreck cut into manageable pieces, the next big challenge was to recover the cargo. The Tricolor was loaded with a staggering treasure of 2,871 brand new cars, showcasing a lineup that included luxury brands like BMW, Volvo, and Saab. Each car was carefully pulled from the depths of the sea, where they had rested for years, exposed to the harsh conditions of salt water and pressure. As they emerged from the water, the recovery team assessed each vehicle for salvageability. While many cars were damaged beyond repair, they were systematically recycled for scrap metal, ensuring that valuable materials could be reused. Now, even though most of the oil from the ship's tanks was removed soon after the sinking, the salvage operations still resulted in a 540-ton oil spill. The whole story of the MV Tricolor is a strong reminder of the challenges and dangers of navigating the sea. It highlights the critical need for good salvage operations, not just to recover lost ships, but to lower the risks to the environment that can happen after accidents at sea. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.